Guess what we're doing today? Hello and welcome back to Seed and Sparrow Homestead. This is your first time here. My name is Kelsey. We are swimming in tomatoes. This was the last 2 days harvest. I have a few things planned for them, but I'm not totally sure just exactly what I'm doing, so we're gonna figure that out together. I'm super thankful for how prolific the tomatoes have been this year. I will say I'm really looking forward to not seeing any more for a good long while. So I think we're gonna make some roasted tomato basil soup today. We're gonna make sauce of some sort. And then we've got a whole bunch of peppers. I've got some hot jalapenos, and then I've got a mix in here of some more Ajwarski, some jalapenos, some bell peppers, and some banana peppers. I was thinking about maybe fermenting some because I have a ton that are freeze dried, and a whole bunch that are frozen. So I was thinking maybe we'll try fermenting them and see how that goes. I also have some zucchini sitting over there. So we're just gonna get started. So this roasted tomato basil soup comes from the all-new Ball Book of Canning and Preserving. It's so good. I make it every year. Last year I made a whole bunch, but I'm down to like my last 6 jars. So I want to make at least one batch of that. It's so much better for you than buying the canned stuff at the store. So much better for you. Good whole ingredients are going into it. And I feel good about giving it to my family. It's such a quick, easy, at least part of a meal. If we're in a hurry, I can grab one of those jars off the shelf, can throw together some like sourdough grilled cheese and throw some ham on it for some extra protein, and we're good to go. So that's the first thing I want to work on because it takes a bit longer. The tomatoes and I think the onions and the garlic go on the tray too. Everything gets roasted together first, and then the process continues. So that is what I'm gonna do now. Trying to think of what else. I think I'm just going to make some plain old tomato sauce. I have still one row empty in my tomato sauce area in my pantry, so I think I'm just gonna fill that today. We're still gonna be getting a whole bunch of tomatoes over the coming weeks. By no means is tomato season done. The plants are loaded right now with green tomatoes, but I'm waiting for them all to ripen. All right, let's just do this thing. It is a slow Saturday. My husband works a half day on Saturdays, and then he has had plans for a little while to go off with a friend today. So it's just me and the kiddos at home. I'm pretty sure they're building a train track right now. So Mom's just gonna get all these tomatoes preserved. So I have my handy dandy kitchen scale here. I need to measure out 8 pounds. It calls for paste tomatoes, so I'm gonna try and prioritize using the paste tomatoes in here. These big old paste tomatoes are called pink oxheart. They're super meaty. And the plants are really pretty prolific. You know, like you grow these smaller Roma style ones, and I mean, there's like no weight to these at all. This thing is probably, let's see, 1.2 pounds. Those are actually my favorite paste tomatoes to grow. They have a really good flavor as well. And they just like get the job done faster because they're so big. That one doesn't look very good. All right, we have achieved 8 pounds of tomatoes. So the next step is going to be having these and putting them on a cookie sheet. And I'm just realizing all of my cookie sheets are in the freezer right now because I'm swimming in raspberries, and I've just been flash freezing them on a cookie tray and then putting them into gallon bags. So I'm gonna need to do that before I can use cookie trays. So let's go get some raspberries. If you catch a glimpse of my sweatpants, yes, I'm totally just, you know, doing the whole comfy thing today. I think canning days just warrant being comfy. So anywho, this is how many raspberries I'm getting about a day. 2 of these cookie trays full, which is really just nuts to me. I don't know if that's just normal. Like, this is my, I guess, 2nd year growing them, but last year was their 1st year in the ground. Excuse me. Last year was their 1st year in the ground, and they only like gave a smaller flush in the fall. This year, they gave us a pretty small flush this spring. And now, like, late summer here, pushing into fall, they're just going bonkers. And I had originally purchased 8 of the Joan, that's something that's not like the others, that's a strawberry. Purchased 8 of the Joan J raspberries, which I really love. They're a thornless one, and they're super prolific, and they just give you these really big raspberries. So they're my red raspberries that I have. I have a few, I think they're either Caroline, they might be Caroline, that are comparable to like the Heritage, and they do have thorns, and I honestly don't like them as much as I like the Joan J. The Joan J are awesome. And then I also have 4 original plants that are these like golden ones here. And those are Ann. They're an Ann variety that I got from M.I. Gardner. The Joan J ones I get from Norse Farms. I can link that in the description if you're interested in expanding your raspberry patch. And then I also have these like rose gold coral ones. Those are double gold, and I got those from M.I. Gardner as well. I got those and the gold ones on like major clearance from M.I. Gardner. So that puts me up to 16 plants. And then this year I added 4 of, I think they're called Royalty, and they're a purple raspberry. And then I also transplanted a whole bunch of the Joan J up here in the front garden. So I don't really know how many I have, because if you watched my last video, they've just spread a ton. And I don't really know how that works. Like, I had so many original plants, but like, I don't know now if you count each cane as a plant, or however many canes would count as a plant. I don't know, but there's a lot out there. I'm thinking the way I'm going to be using these, well, of course, in like things like smoothies, baking with them. I'm thinking about some fruit leathers as well. But my kids are kind of picky when it comes to raspberry things. Like, I had made jam one year and it was just really seedy, and they don't like the seeds. So if I can get the seeds out for a fruit leather, that would be a great option for them over the winter. And then I was thinking maybe some sorbet, just for something fun here and there. But if you have any other ideas on what I can do with these raspberries, let me know. The only way I know to actually can them is in like jams. And I have enough jam, so I don't want to be doing any of that. And I have a lot that are freeze dried as well. I think this makes 8 bags in the freezer, and then I probably have 3 or 4 gallons that are freeze dry. It's a lot of raspberries. I'm probably gonna be giving some away to friends too. And just speaking of things that are in the freezer, we're gonna be going through my freezer here soon, probably in the next week. I have quite a few freezers. That's just kind of what you need when you grow a lot of food and you raise some of your own meat. You need freezer space. And the garden's just been doing so well this year, and I haven't really been able to keep up with everything, so a lot of things have just been going into the freezer for me to worry about later. And we're gonna be butchering our 2nd round of meat birds in just 2 weeks. And I have pretty much 0 space in my freezers for 23 birds. So we gotta do something about that. I gotta go through and organize. We gotta pull some things out to use. Maybe we'll can up some meat. I don't really know. But that's gonna be a big project I'm gonna work on this coming week. All right, these are going into the freezer. While I'm out there, I'm gonna grab my big electric roaster because that's where the rest of these tomatoes are gonna go into. And then we're just gonna get to work on chopping all of these up. All right, now let's actually get started on this thing. So I'm just slicing these guys in half. I'm putting them skin side up on the cookie sheets. Got my oven preheating to 375, hoping these 8 pounds fit on these 2 cookie trays so I can just get it all done in one shot. And then we'll work at filling up the roaster. See how meaty these Oxheart tomatoes are? There's not a whole lot of liquid in them at all, just like these little pockets of gel here on the side. All right, these 2 trays are gonna go into my oven at 375 for about 45 minutes until they're really soft. Then we're gonna cool them down and then we are gonna take the skins off. All right, get this plugged in, heating up. We're gonna start coring and quartering all of the tomatoes. So I had been dicing up some of my tomatoes and freeze drying them so that I could powder them and then turn them into like a tomato paste if I wanted, or a tomato soup, tomato sauce, whatever I felt like at that time. But I've put a halt to that, at least for right now. We're just experiencing really high humidity, and the freeze dryer doesn't really like it. I mean, and it's just hot. It's hot downstairs in our basement right now, and the humidity doesn't help. And they were taking, I think the last batch was like close to 4 days, which is just really excessive and uses a lot of power. So I am just gonna wait till later on in the season and focus on doing what I want canning wise with all the tomatoes coming in, or freezing them, whatever I have planned there. And then whatever comes in the last minute and I'm like totally over canning, then we're just gonna dice them up and throw them in the freeze dryer, and hopefully that process does not take as long later on this year. Here are our roasted tomatoes. I almost said potatoes. So I'm going to allow these to cool for a minute before we start to take the skins off. And I just have a few tomatoes over here left to put into the roaster. All right, the electric roaster overfloweth. I am going to add a little bit of water in here just to make sure nothing sticks or burns at the bottom until I can kind of get a spoon in here and mix it up a bit. It's just too crowded at the moment. I'm not even sure this lid is going to fit. Oh, wonderful. So that's gonna go. Keeping it around 275, 300, just to soften these guys up. And then once everything is good and mushy, I'll let it cool off a little bit and then we'll run it through the food mill. I am currently waiting for the roasted tomatoes to cool off a bit. So while I wait, I'm gonna chop up, I need 2 cups worth of onions, and then I also need 4 cloves of garlic, minced. have a tablespoon of olive oil heating up in my pan here, and I am adding in my 2 cups of chopped onions and my 4 cloves of garlic minced. Also going to add in 1 teaspoon of pepper and 1 teaspoon of salt. We're gonna throw a lid on here. This is gonna cook for about 8 to 10 minutes until it's nice and tender, but the book says you don't want them to turn brown. So while our mixture on the stove is doing its thing, I am going to get to work taking the skins off of these tomatoes, which come off super easy once they've been roasted. And I'm just gonna work my way through both of these trays. I'm just gonna roughly chop these all up. They're gonna get added in with the onions and the garlic soon, but as soon as the onions and the garlic are tender, we are gonna add in some white wine, and we're gonna allow that wine to completely evaporate. It should be about 10 minutes or so. And then we'll add in our tomatoes and some chicken stock. I'm just gonna put these back onto my pan here. I'll work on the other tray. All right, these are all nice and soft now, so I'm gonna add in 1 cup of white wine. I just buy the cheap stuff at the store. I'm gonna mix this all together. We're gonna get it back on the burner. I'm gonna leave the lid off this time so that the white wine evaporates, and it should take around 10 minutes or so. In the meantime, we are gonna go outside. I've gotta harvest some basil. We need 1 cup tightly packed, so let's go do that. Check out my super glamorous getup, an apron with sweatpants, socks, and sandals. I have you sitting on top of the elderberry planter. I don't know how this is gonna work. I'm just gonna grab a whole bunch of basil here. I don't really know why I'm wearing sweatpants today. I woke up and I was cold. We're kind of in that awkward time of year where you're cold in the morning and then by lunchtime you are sweating. So I might go in and change because it's getting real hot, and with the roaster oven on and soon we're gonna have the pressure canner out, it's gonna be toasty. All right, that has pretty much completely evaporated, so now we're gonna add in our tomatoes. So here go our tomatoes. Whoops. That wasn't very good, Kelsey. We're gonna add in 4 cups of chicken stock. You can use beef stock as well. I'm just using store-bought. I don't have any of my own right now. I try to buy organic, and I do try to get the stuff that's fat-free. So I just realized something. I am totally out of pint jars. I knew that, I just forgot. And of course my husband is not home and he won't be for a few hours, and Grant is napping. He should be up in like the next 30 minutes. So I'm thinking as soon as he wakes up, I'm just gonna get both the kids ready to go, and we're gonna run to our local grocery store. They carry canning jars. I'm just gonna buy a flat or 2. But I have to hold off on the soup now. It had cooked for 20 minutes, I turned it off, it's cooling. I need to run it through with a blender or put an immersion blender in there. But I can't actually can it until I go get some pint jars. So that's on hold. The roaster back here is doing its thing. They still aren't soft enough to run through the mill, so I'm on hold with that as well. So while I'm waiting for Grant to wake up, I figured I'll work on some peppers. I'm gonna slice those up. We're gonna make some fermented jalapeno peppers. I'm gonna try that out. And then I've got some of my red Ajvarski peppers that I like to roast. I think we're gonna roast those, but I'm gonna make like a roasted red pepper sauce. I thought it might be fun to use in place of pizza sauce when we do a pizza night, at least for Matt and I. I don't know if the kids are gonna love that. But make it a bit fancier of a pizza. And do like a mixture of cheeses, some mozzarella slices, maybe some balsamic onions, some prosciutto. Fancy it up a little bit just for something different. So that's what we're gonna work on now, and then I'm gonna go to the store. Well, my Ajvarski have been halved. They are skin side up. I'm gonna get these underneath the broiler, about 6 inches below it for, I don't know, like 8 minutes or so. I'm gonna keep an eye on them until like the tops are kind of charred, and then we'll peel the skin off and puree these up. So we're gonna ferment these jalapenos. They don't have any spice. I'm too much of a wimp to try fermenting my spicy jalapenos. Although I have heard, I want to say that the fermentation process kind of dulls their heat, but I'm not totally positive that's true. And I don't really want to find out. So we're just using the jalapenos. I'm going to slice these, and I am going to take the seeds out just because I'm not a huge fan of the texture of the seeds. And then all we do is put our slices into a mason jar. We make a brine, which is just a salt-water combination. We can throw some garlic in the jars if we want. Pour the brine over it. Make sure it's all weighted down, everything's underneath the brine, and we let it go for like 10 to 14 days. So we will see how we like it. Oh, I wanted to take the pith out and the seeds. Hold, please. I don't totally remember what I was saying. I'm getting tired. I didn't actually sleep very well last night. Eleanor was up at one point and she needed me, and then I came back over and my mind was just like, okay, it's time to get up, and I laid there for probably like 2 hours or more. I should have just gotten up and done something, but I didn't feel like it. So I'm not running on a whole lot of sleep today. But anywho, don't totally remember what I was talking about, but I did want to say, I'm gonna probably use these fermented jalapenos interchangeably, like with how I would use cowboy candy. I was thinking maybe like on breakfast bakes on top of eggs. I know some people are like, ew, Kelsey, really? But I don't know, that sounds good to me. On top of tacos and chili, you know, that sort of stuff. And the fermentation process gives you lots of good bacteria, probiotics for your gut. Just all around good for you. I think I've shown this before, this hack, but this is how I like to take the pith and the seeds out. I have my peeler here, and I just go all the way around the edges, and it pops right out. All right, Eleanor and Grant and I just got back from the store. Where I left off with you on camera is literally all I did. I didn't get anything else done before we left. I decided to pick up some food for dinner on the way home, so we just got done eating. We're back in business, so this was the only set of jars they had on the shelf, so it's a good thing I didn't need more than that. My husband just walked in the door. I have a feeling, like, the kids really haven't seen him all day, so I have a feeling they're gonna be playing and being kind of loud, so I may have to resort to just doing a voiceover for what is to come, at least tonight. This is not all gonna get done tonight. I'm pretty sure this sauce is gonna go into tomorrow. I am gonna pull out my pressure canner, get that filled up with some water, and get it warming up a little bit, and I need to go and immersion blend my soup, bring it back up to a boil, and then we can fill our jars, and we'll have one thing done. I feel like I've been working all day and I have nothing to show for it. And then we'll work on our peppers. So now we're gonna bring this back up to a boil over medium heat. I'm gonna go grab the pressure canner. All right, it's been a little while since we've done some pressure canning together. I have an All-American 921 model. I love it. I am putting in about 2 inches worth of water there. You will have to refer to your own pressure canner manual to see how much is required for you. I'm going to fill up some pint jars here with our tomato basil soup. These get filled to 1 inch of headspace. I debubbled these just with a chopstick. I'm going in and double checking the headspace, adjusting if needed, cleaning off the rims of any food residue, applying new washed lids, and we're going to tighten our rings to fingertip tight. These will go into the pressure canner and they will process for 50 minutes. If you are using quart jars, they will process for 60 minutes and they have the same headspace, 1 inch. I'm going to get my lid on here, make sure it's lined up correctly, and I always like to triple check that the lid is level, always taking extra safety measures when pressure canning. The way I tighten my All-American lid is tightening each screw opposite each other at the same time just until you meet resistance, and then doing that all the way around, and then I go back around and I tighten each one as tight as I can get them. After the lid is secure, I'm going to turn the heat up to high, get this to a boil, and wait for steam to come out of this vent. We're going to move back to our fermentation experiment here. I have done a whole bunch of sauerkraut over the years, but I haven't really ventured out and tried other things. Although I'm really trying to work on gut health, I'd like to add in some ferments. I haven't tolerated store-bought ferments, but I've heard people have success tolerating ones they make in your own home because you're familiar with the bacteria in your home. So I'm interested to see how that works out. I'm going to add in 2 crushed cloves of garlic, and then we're just going to make our brine. I have 2 cups of filtered water, and I am going to measure in 4 teaspoons of salt. I am making sure to use unrefined salt. This is Redmond Real Salt. And if you are interested in purchasing some unrefined salt for yourself, go ahead and check out my link in the description for 15% off at Redmond's. I'm going to pour our brine over the top of our jalapenos, and I want to make sure that they're completely covered. You want everything to remain submerged and underneath your liquid, otherwise you're going to end up with molding. So I just cut an extra jalapeno lengthwise, and I am using this to push down the cut jalapenos. I made sure this one was just about the width of the jar so it could tuck underneath that rim there and keep them submerged. I'm just using a lid and a ring here, and I'm just tightening this just a little bit to make sure that gases can escape, but I will go ahead and burp this daily for 10 to 14 days until it's ready. We have a steady stream of steam, so I waited 10 minutes before coming back, and I'm going to add on my weight. I'm using 10 pounds here for my elevation. You'll have to check what you need for yours, and I'm going to wait until this climbs to 10 pounds of pressure. Once it gets there, you're going to start to hear a jiggle from that weight. You want to maintain about 4 jiggles per minute. You may have to adjust your heat, and then as soon as you get that first jiggle and you reach 10 pounds of pressure, you'll start your processing time of 50 minutes for pints. So we finally got that all figured out. Now I'm going to work on my roasted red pepper pizza sauce. I am taking off the skins here. Not totally necessary. I just prefer that. So I'm going to throw just a whole bunch of ingredients here into my food processor. Now I used about 6 Edgewarsky peppers, but you could use any red peppers that you have. I added in 2 cloves of garlic and about a half cup of toasted walnuts. I'm going to add in probably like 2 heaping tablespoons worth of tomato paste. I'm going to add in about a half cup's worth of extra virgin olive oil. And I also added in 2 tablespoons of raw honey. Next, I am adding in 2 tablespoons of red wine vinegar. I'm going to sprinkle in about a teaspoon's worth of paprika and about a half teaspoon's worth of unrefined salt. Gonna grab my lid, get that on, and I'm going to run this through the food processor until it is completely smooth. here it is all done. Let me tell you guys, this was divine. I put a little bit on my spoon for my husband and his eyes got huge and he's like, what is this? It is so good. We're super excited to use it, like I said, as a pizza sauce, but I think it'd be super yummy over pasta as well, and I'm sure I'll think of other ways to use it. I'm going to keep this in the freezer and try to use within 3 to 6 months. Our 50 minutes is up, so I turned off my burner. I am waiting for all of the pressure to come out naturally. I'm not touching anything. The weight stays on until that pressure is at 0 for at least 10 minutes. Then I remove the weight, wait another about 15 minutes, and then I will start to loosen the bolts. After the lid comes off, I wait another 15 minutes or so. This will help prevent siphoning. You want to gradually decrease the pressure and the temperature. After these came out, I decided to call it a night. I was getting pretty tired, needed some sleep. Bright and early the next morning, I got right back at it. All of my tomatoes in the roaster were ready to be milled, so pulled out my mill. This is a Cucina Pro. I got it from Amazon at the recommendation over at Living Traditions Homestead. They recommended it. I like it. I have a couple qualms with it, but for the price, it's served me well over the years, although I'm looking to upgrade for next season, but it's works just fine, especially when you're just getting started and you don't have like a ton of tomatoes to work through. I do notice that it leaks a little bit through the handle, like juices splatter out. It's not super sturdy, and where the two sections come together, they slip apart pretty easily, so you need to keep your hand on it. And just the fact that it's plastic isn't great, but it has served its purpose well. So now I just start the process of running these tomatoes through the mill. I like to run the skins and the seeds that come out back through once or twice just to make sure I'm getting all of the meat out of them. I think it's funny when I'm editing and I realize my kids' toys are in the video. I never notice as I'm filming because it's just so normal to have toys everywhere. So Grant was here. And speaking of the little guy, as soon as he hears me start to crank this thing, he comes running. This is his most favorite job. So here's the little munchkin. His pudgy little hands helping me crank away at this mill. He's such a good little helper. The kiddos and I got all of our tomatoes milled. So now I'm just cooking them down a little bit. This wasn't a super watery batch, so we're gonna see how long this takes. I'm thinking they need to decrease by about 1/3. The kiddos wanted to go outside and play for a little bit, so I have been wanting to pick some more herbs for the freeze dryer. We're gonna do an entire load of just herbs. So I got some chives. These are pineapple mint, piccolino basil. This is marjoram. This is lemon balm, some parsley, sage, holy basil. And then this is lemon basil, some pineapple sage, some mint, rosemary, and then I have some raspberry leaves. And then over here on the chair, I have some Genovese basil. Isn't this such a pretty mix of flowers? I am trying to bring more in, like do a bouquet or two each week, just to appreciate them while they're still here. A lot of the plants are on their way out. But I've got some, I can keep shading it. I got some, these are white dahlias. That's just, honestly, I don't know the varieties of these dahlias. They came in like a mix bag from Walmart. So just 2 types of dahlias. These are Olivia Austin by David Austin. This one is Princess Alexandria of Kent. And then this is Blue Salvia. These spiky things in here, that is pink sherbet celosia. And then I have some apple blossom snapdragons in here. I think that's everything. Yeah. Got 4 very fragrant trays of herbs here. Eleanor, what are you doing? You're gonna go into the freeze dryer. I had no idea what she was doing out there. Our tomato sauce is all done. I'm gonna leave these plain besides some salt. I'm not gonna put any spices, herbs in them. That way they're just a bit more versatile. So I'm just adding in 1 teaspoon of red mineral salt per quart jar. And then we're gonna add in a 1/2 teaspoon of the citric acid per quart jar. I'm interested to see how many quarts we get from that big old roaster round full of tomatoes. I cook my tomato sauce to like about a medium consistency. It's not runny, but it's also not quite as thick as I could get it. So we'll see how much we get. I'm thinking 7 or 8 quarts. So I was correct. We got 7 quart jars and another that's not quite even half full. This is just going to go into the fridge. We'll eat it this week with something. That's just totally wild to me that that big old roaster full of tomatoes, heaping full, got us 7 quarts. So now I'm just going to wipe the rims down, add new washed lids, tighten rings to fingertip tight, and get these into the water bath canner for 40 minutes. Ooh, I think I have this too full. Is it too full? Grab some of this water out of here, otherwise I'm gonna have a big mess. While that all processes, we are going to work on this fairly large pile of zucchini that have been accumulating. I'm just gonna shred this all up. We are going to be baking with it today and also freezing some of it. Eleanor has been on my case for a little while now about making some muffins, and she's been wanting cookies. We do sweets here in moderation, so it's been a little bit since we've made anything together. So first up, we are doing some cookies. I will link both of these recipes down in the description. All of today's recipes are down there. These are not my own recipes, but they are ones that we love and always come back to. So for our dry ingredients, we are using some all-purpose organic white wheat flour, some baking soda, baking powder, some salt, and cinnamon, and we're going to get that stirred up. For our wet ingredients, I have some melted butter. It called for light brown sugar. I am trying to use as little refined sugar as possible, so I used coconut sugar, and then it called for just a little bit of granulated sugar. I used some raw organic cane sugar. Threw in some of our eggs, some vanilla, and we mixed that all up. Then we combine our wet ingredients with our dry and give that a good stir. Next comes our grated zucchini, and you can see her wrinkle her nose at this point. She was really questioning me, like, Mom, what are you doing? You're ruining the cookies. Promise you, they're really good. I'm gonna add in some rolled oats, stir this all up, and then we'll add in the best part, at least according to Eleanor. After adding in these chocolate chips, I seem to have redeemed myself. She was very excited, and you'll see some little fingers here creep in and grab a taste. I mean, who can resist? Fold everything in until all combined, and then we're going to get these onto a greased cookie sheet, and these will bake at 350 for about 10 to 12 minutes. While those are in the oven, we're moving on to our muffins. Our dry ingredients include some whole wheat flour, baking powder, baking soda, salt, cinnamon, and nutmeg. And then we added in some maple syrup, some unsweetened applesauce, some melted coconut oil, eggs, vanilla, and our grated zucchini. Got these into some muffin liners. It made 12 exactly, and I baked them at 350 for just about 20 minutes or until a toothpick comes out clean. These cookies are so yummy. Everyone always raves over them. It's a great way to use up some zucchini, and they keep really well in the freezer, so you can throw them in there and then pull them out whenever you want. I made a double batch so I could do just that. Here are the muffins. These are super light and fluffy and moist, not heavy or dry at all. Super yummy. So I have a whole bunch of shredded zucchini left over. I'm just gonna throw this into like quart-sized freezer bags in 1 and 2 cup portions. That's usually what my recipes call for. And that way we can have yummy zucchini treats all winter long. So the totals for this round of preservation are 7 quarts of tomato sauce, 7 pints of the tomato basil soup, probably about 4 dozen of those cookies, and a dozen of the muffins, although my family is making quick work of making them disappear. I have 4 half pints of the roasted pepper pizza sauce, 2 gallons of frozen raspberries, and 1 quart of fermented jalapeno peppers. I do have all of the freeze-dried herbs still going in the freeze dryer, so I'll get them out soon. The only thing I didn't get to were all of the spicy jalapeno peppers. I think I'm just going to make another batch of cowboy candy with them. So I thank you all for spending some time with me. I hope you enjoyed coming along as we put up some more food for winter. Drop any questions you may have down in the comments below. I appreciate them. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Keep stocking those pantries. Blessings on your day, friend. Until next time, take care.